So, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another live interview show with Become a Fearless Father. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked because I didn't see my logo. I'm like, where is it at? I've changed it and I'm going on a different page, and that's my mistake. That's the first time and the last time I'm doing this. Alrighty, that said, I have a great guest for us right now, and I got live with me, Chris Miles. Chris, thank you so much for hopping on. Man, you blew me away when we were talking for a little bit a couple of weeks ago on Facebook. So if you don't mind, I'm going to hop right in, and then we're going to talk a little bit about you. But for the people that don't know Chris, he's got 8 kids. That alone, I lost like half of my hair from that one.
I have too.
Yeah, right? I'm surprised you still got that much hair. Oh, all right. And when you mentioned like you've written a book together with John Lee Dumas and Tim Ferriss, I was like, man, this is going to be exciting, right? So first of all, man, my question that I want to start off with, and I guess everybody's going to be really excited about hearing your answer to this. What has been your key or your main factor for creating success in your business and in your entrepreneurial journey while having to raise 8 kids, right? Or while raising 8 kids, because you're still doing it, right?
Right, for sure. Well, I mean, it's all about trying to create harmony between them, right? I mean, you can never create perfect balance. I mean, as much as you want, but create harmony, have good priorities, knowing where that is. And I didn't always have good priorities. I'll be honest. Like, a lot of times I was focusing so much on the business. Like, I just got to get this business going, and then I can spend time with my family, right? As long as it's always someday this will happen, and when it does, then I can do this. And the next thing I know, like my kids are growing up without me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually got to the point where I had to get those priorities straight to say, hey, listen, like, God first, family second, and really inside the family, wife second, kids third, and then business fourth, right?
Exactly.
And once that got into harmony, then things started to get easier, especially when I focused all on how can I serve these people? Like, how can I serve people in my business? How can I serve my wife? How can I connect with her? How can I serve my kids and serve myself? Still find time for myself to, get myself in better health and get in better, body and shape and things like that. I just ran 12 miles this morning, and
nice.
I was thinking as I was running by people, I'm like, man, like I'm healthier now in my 40s than I was in my 30s when I was really sick and tired and overweight. And that's not the case anymore,
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's when you said that, like, okay, so God first, right? Spirituality first, then family. And when I ask that to most people, like when you put family, what goes first, what goes second? Most entrepreneur dads say kids goes first and then wife goes second.
Yeah, I can't do that.
You already start shaking. No, exactly. No. I learned that the hard way, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like if the connection is not there with you and the spouse first and foremost, that priority is not there, the family falls apart anyways. And it messes with the kids, and I know I've been through 2 divorces, I've been now remarried with my 3rd marriage. And, if there's anything I've learned, it's learn how to screw it up. Right.
Right. We learn by failure, right? That's what we are good at.
Yeah, exactly.
I am.
Yep.
So I appreciate you sharing that. But yeah, for me, that was a big game changer. Realizing like, look, I got to change this. I mean, I can still feel like, okay, my kids come first. But by making sure that happens, I got to put my wife first. So we're aligned and we're that example for them of how a good functioning relationship looks like. Right. So I appreciate you sharing that. All right, Chris. So share a little bit about your origin story, your background story, so people get to, know you a little bit better. And then we'll hop on with some more questions.
Yeah, so I was not raised in a big family myself. I just had my sister and I, and there was 2 half brothers that ran away from home. They were 10 years older than me, so I never saw them. So I was kind of raised in a quiet home. And then, I moved from Oregon and then moved to Utah in my 20s and, met my previous spouse, there. And, next thing you know, we started having a bunch of kids and it just kept going. And even right before about the time we were about to divorce, we had a surprise child, number 6, show up. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And it kind of kept us together for a few more months, but then eventually the marriage fell apart. And so I was basically like, a single dad, trying to raise 5 and then soon 6 kids, and eventually I remarried, and she had 2 kids. Fortunately, it wasn't like she had 6 kids as well. It'd be like Brady Bunch times 2. We're just the Brady Bunch, but we can't fit Alice in the house, right? Because there's not enough room for her. But so we got the 8 kids blended, and I've been married now for 3 years, and all the meanwhile, I've had a business for the last 18 years. I've been in the kind of the financial business and that kind of thing, and now I have a podcast, have my own, the Chris Miles Money Show that I do, and I teach people how to become financially free, like retire early, like I did. I was able to do 3 years ago, and now even it's an interesting life because we get the kids all together or they're all apart. That's kind of how we do it. We kind of got the schedules coordinated, with holidays and everything else. So at least the holidays they can be together versus like alternating in different places.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course in the wintertime we go snowbird. We homeschool my wife's 2 kids. And so we go snowbird in the wintertime to escape all the snow in Utah, and we go anywhere warmer, whether it's Hawaii, California, Texas. This year we're doing Arizona. So, just anywhere we can go that's warmer. And especially when my wife's from the tropics, she insists on it. So that's kind of my basic Reader's Digest story in a very, very small nutshell.
Nice. I appreciate you sharing that. And I put the website on. That's correct, right? moneyripples.com.
That's correct. Yep.
Awesome. So for people that want to, find out more, make sure to click on the link. It's in the comment section, so it's easily available. Plus, if you're watching the recording, is in the description section there as well. With put your LinkedIn there as well, if that's okay. If not, then let me know. I can take it out later. And your Facebook page I put in there as well, so people got easy access to you, right? Anyway, wow, that's some story. So wife number 3, you have no kids with her. However, she does get to spend time with all the other 8 kids, right?
That's right. Yep. She definitely loves me a lot more than I love her, because me going from 6 to 8 kids was a much easier transition than her going from 2 to 8 kids.
All right. Yeah, I can hear that. Woof. Man, I got 2, and sometimes I'm already like, woo. I actually want another one, but my wife said.
I remember after my first kid, like I thought, man, can we even have any more of these? Because I am dying here. Like it was such a big change and transition, to go from 0 to 1. The 1 to 2 was okay, and I've noticed with every kid it gets easier and easier. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's like because they're a chain gang. You just chain them all up, and make them all do labor and stuff. And
There you go. So tell me more about Money Ripples if you want. Like what's been your strategy? Because that's sometimes I feel like that's the dream where everybody's sharing, right? Become financially free. And that's what you said earlier, like the trap becomes there that you're like, once I'm financially free, then my life really starts, right? And then you struggle, and all of a sudden before you know, you look around, you're like, hey, wait a minute, did I have a wife and some kids? Where did they go? Right? So share a little bit about, what's your approach to that, and how do you help other men, women to make this happen?
Yeah, so my whole thing is about creating cash flow now, right? Mm-hmm. In the early 2000s, I started out as the traditional mainstream financial advisor. I was telling you to, save everything, spend nothing, save in mutual funds, and save it forever, and basically your entire life sucks, right? That's pretty much what I taught, is delay all that gratification. Well, by 2006, I realized when I met people that were real millionaires, they hated financial advice. And they're like, no, I don't even listen to that stuff. That stuff is wrong. And when I started to look at true evidence, right? Like when I started to look at people that have been saving for decades in these mutual funds and the 401ks and IRAs and things like that, I realized none of them were financially free. Zero. Like they could never save their way to real wealth or financial freedom. Now they might have saved a lot of money, but still, because we were telling them don't live on more than 2 or 3% of your money. Even if you saved up $1 million, you're only living on 20 or 30,000 a year. Like you're below the poverty line. You're a broke millionaire, Yeah. And so in 2006, I changed directions. I actually said I'm gonna quit that. I'll never teach about money again. I will just do mortgages and teach ballroom dancing, and at the local university, and that's what I started doing. And but while I was doing that, I was starting to learn from these guys that were millionaires. And the next thing you know, by summer of 2006, I was able to retire for the first time, working like 3-4 hours a week. So I was literally doing like the 4-hour work week before Tim Ferriss wrote the book,
Nice.
But, then I came out of retirement because I realized people kept asking me, how did I do it? Right. And I'm a natural teacher. I love teaching. And that's kind of what became the premise over time with Money Ripples down the road was, and I worked with lots of different people along the way, like Garrett Gunderson. If you've ever heard of him, I worked with him for a while and partnered up with him for a bit. And then I did my own thing about over 7 years ago with Money Ripples. And really the premise is simply this, is I'm an anti-financial advisor. I'm telling you to do the opposite of what financial advisors tell you to do. I'm telling you, don't put your money in IRAs and 401ks, but instead put your money in things that actually can create freedom, which are things like, alternative investments. Like it might be real estate. Like I'm at a real estate conference right now where they're talking about the economy and all that kind of stuff, right? Different notes and things like that will pay you much better cash flow than you'll ever get from mutual funds with less risk. So you're less risk, making higher returns, and it can happen much sooner than people realize, which if you do the traditional model, it will never happen. Like you can't, unless you're about to die, you'll probably run out of money, and that's kind of what I've been teaching people and helping many, many, many people, hundreds of people, increase their cash flow in the first year by like 35, 40,000 a year. And sometimes even over 100,000 a year just within the first year. And that keeps increasing year after year. And I think in total, I think it's just over $200 million I've helped people improve their cash flow, whether it's through investments or even just from improving, money at home, like, ways to free up expenses and things like that without living cheap. And it's interesting. You asked about like becoming free, right? Financial freedom has nothing to do with your pocketbook or how much money you're making. It's all about that state of mind or that state of being of who you are. Because even when I was retired, the thing is, I got to the point where I didn't have to work, but then I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I had no vision of what that should look like. And so I went right back to trying to work and do various projects and things, partly because I was getting bored, but driving my wife nuts. She's like, okay, there should only be one mom in this house. You're not it. Get out, But I'll tell you, like, financial freedom has nothing to do with how much money you're making because, before the recession, I was making great money, but I was still caught up in scarcity from time to time. And that caused me to not spend time with the family, right? Even though I could have spent time. And it really took me until the last 4 years, really since the divorce, that I was able to scrap everything, burn the old life, create a new life, create a new identity, create a new context of my own reality, right? That's where I realized I didn't have to work, when I was building my business Money Ripples a lot, I was working 50 or 60 hours a week. Now, as I'm slammed with a lot of business, making 10 times more money, the crazy thing is I'm working a third of the hours. I'm working maybe 20 hours a week right now. So I live a part-time life, but I have a full-time mission, right?
Exactly.
And the cool thing is that I get that time with my kids. Like I can take time off and say, all right, my kids are here. I got 8 kids. My wife does not want to take care of them all. That puts the burden on me. Plus she's like, hey, Chris, when's breakfast going to be ready? Or when's dinner going to be ready? She has to cook and do a lot of cleaning too, So
Nice.
that's kind of the fun thing is that as I've grown through life, so the things I teach and the things that I do have changed as well.
Exactly. Man, I love it. That's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, again, what you mentioned, like live in the now. I think because I still have my kids' money in saving accounts, right? And I think they have like 0.01% at the moment. It's like, oh, what's the money doing here? We got to do this different. So
you're almost paying to put their money in there,
Pretty much. Yeah, that's actually what my mom says. Like pretty soon you're going to be paying for having your money in the savings account.
That's what they're doing in Europe right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous over here. But yeah, I actually got my money not in the savings account. I got a different setup. But I'm definitely willing to learn from you in the future to see what else I can do. I've decided to heavily invest in myself, right? Is that one of the advices that you also shared, or what's your point of view on that? Like a lot of people, when I talk to them, it's like, they ask me for advice. It's like, yeah, there's this amazing course, and this guy, he's going to get me this, and this. However, it's a lot of money, and I'm going to have to take all of my savings and invest it in that. And I'm not sure, right? I don't know if you heard this a lot, but I'm just wondering, like, what's your philosophy on that in regards to investing, your savings in yourself, right?
I think investing in yourself is like the first place to invest. I would add, do it wisely, because a lot of people that tell you to invest in yourself, really what they should be saying is the truth, which is buy my crap, right? There's so many people out there saying like, well, hey, pay me, $40,000, $50,000 and I'll change your life. And the truth is they usually don't. If anything, they do change your bank account, but not in a good way. I mean, you end up going into massive debt. If you're married, you have a spouse that then resents you for the dumb decision you made. And I'm not saying that everybody is bad this way, but there is a big trend of a lot of like self-help stuff that ultimately, like, it really, there's so much you can do. And I know, because when I went through the recession, I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire. I went broke. Like I went over $1 million in debt because I had a lot of, like, I was just doing dumb things, right? Like I was doing dumb things with real estate, not like the smart things I do today. I was doing dumb things with my business, the brand new business I was launching with a partner, and we did dumb things there. And next thing I know, I'm like in the hole $16,000 a month. Right. And so and trust me, like, I was doing a lot of education, invest myself all throughout, even during those desperate times. In fact, more so during those desperate times than ever, because I was looking for the answer. But I will tell you, the cool thing is that there's so many great resources. You've got podcasts like this one right here, right? You've got YouTube. You've got, you've got books, even audio books. Even if you don't like reading, you can listen to them. I have an Audible account that I download books and listen to them a lot. There's so many things you can do. And there are some things you can put money into. There's so many things you can do that you don't have to put money into as well, or not a lot of money in. And so that's what I would say is, like, yes, invest in yourself, but be careful. A lot of the marketing language out there by a lot of business owners are telling you, hey, for 50 or 100,000 bucks, I will make you a millionaire. And the truth is that a lot of times they won't, because they're not themselves. They're just selling a bunch of hopium, right? And there's a lot of charlatans out there. There's good ones too. There's good ones, but a lot of the people you hear with the loudest megaphones are often the ones that are the biggest waste of money, and they'll charge highest dollar for biggest crap. So that's why I just tell people, like, don't do that stuff. I mean, that's why even on my podcast, like, I offer free, because I've got like over 350 episodes. And a lot of it's of my mistakes and the things I've learned, and my own resources, and the things that I've taken, and key books that I've read, and things like that have helped me get to where I am today. And it's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a progression. So, I mean, be patient with yourself. Do invest time and energy into increasing your education, learning more, improving your own behaviors, because for me, the last 3 years of being married to my wife now is that she cuts right through the BS. Like, she does not let me get away with anything. And it's been so hard to look in a mirror with the things she said, where I thought I was being victimized from previous marriages, only to learn that a lot of that stuff was me. Not everything, but a lot of the stuff was me, like me overreacting, me being overly sensitive about things, and that affected my marriages, and even my current marriage, and her kind of putting a mirror right up to my face saying, look at this. It's an amazing personal development in and of itself.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I keep hearing people say that it's like your best, like your kids and your wife are like, they teach you the most if you're willing to learn from them, especially your kids, right? I heard one person one time say, like, look, if you want to receive an honest answer, if you don't like honest answers, don't ask your kids, because they'll just go, right? What
That's
do you
true.
think about hair? Yeah, you're bald. Right?
If anybody can keep you humble, it's your kids.
Sorry, what?
If anybody can keep you humble, it's your kids. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They keep you grounded for sure. That's absolutely true. So let me ask you this then, in regards, because you mentioned, like, absolutely, investment in yourself is great, right? I like the phrase, those that pay attention. I think that's true, because yes, you're right. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I hear those guys like, oh yeah, I'm following tons of podcasts and reading tons of books, and okay, where you at? Like, are you taking action? It's like, no, I don't know where to start, and they keep just accumulating stuff, right? What would you
Yep.
suggest? Like, what's a good investment in somebody that's, at the beginning of building a business and struggling somewhat? Would you invest invest in courses or continue to look for, YouTube and podcasts? Or would you say like, no, it would be better to invest in a coach that's been there, that's ahead of you to help you move along and keep you accountable, right?
Yeah, I'd say all the above. I
Mm,
really would. Like I definitely like, coaches. I actually lately, and this is where the level I'm at, like this could be different for you, but sometimes one-on-one coach to help hold your hand is what you need right now. The
mhm,
key is if you're going to invest in a coach, be sure you're willing to take action.
mhm,
I think the best way to figure that out, if you're really, because you're not really worried about the return on investment with the coach, although you might be, depending if you think the coach is credible or not. But if you know that coach is the person for you,
mhm.
right? Then the only doubt you usually have is in yourself,
Yep.
right?
Well
It's
said.
it's because you wonder if you're committed, and that's a perfect question to ask. And a good way to figure out is if you're willing to take action is even if you're reading a book or listen to a podcast or watching YouTube, are you acting on the little bit of advice? Are you taking like one thing from them and acting on it and trying it out? Even if you mess up and fail, which is fine because we all do. I've been in business for 18 years, right? And it's only lately I'm like, oh, I'm starting to figure this out. Like I've known a lot of stuff and I've been implementing it, but it's almost like now I'm at the point where there's so much easy momentum. I don't have to try anymore, right? It just happens now easily. But
Mhm.
that wasn't always the case. So yes, you do need a coach, but the real question is, are you committed enough to actually act on what the coach is saying? And I'll throw in a bonus here. Be willing to listen to your gut.
Mm,
There are times that I've had coaches tell me, I remember 4 years ago, like I kind of scrapped my business a little bit I kept it. It was there on the outside. Nobody knows the difference. Right.
mhm.
But I was burned out. I was going through a divorce. I'd done 6 live events that year. And I
Wow.
was thinking, this has got to change. Like I'm exhausted. And
Mhm.
so what I did is I actually went and I started looking at my business and started feeling like, what feels right to me? Like what feels right for me? Not all the voices coming to tell me what I should be doing in my business, including my business coach. What's the right thing? And I remember
Mhm.
my business coach said, Chris, if you want a bigger business next year, you need to go from 6 to 12 events next year. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that does not feel right. And that's what her model was, right?
Uh-huh.
But what I did is I went to, instead of from 6, I went down to 3. And instead of trying to put butts in seats, I was like, I only want the right people here. I'm tired of trying to just get all these people in that really shouldn't be here in the first place.
Mm,
Who's my ideal client? And really narrow that down and get to the best of the best. And what happened is my business exploded the next year. I did less events, made more money with less time, less expense, money out of pocket, less to invest in my business, and I made more money. And then later that year, I was able to retire because I had other passive streams of income coming in. I was like, I don't even have to work anymore. This is awesome. I'm working because I want to, not because I have to. And
exactly.
every time I've listened to that, even though I had to do the opposite of what that coach told me, because I did that, I was way more successful than I had to listen to her. Again, I took some things, but again, I had to listen to feel what was right for my business.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. I always say work smart, not hard. And that kind of
Exactly.
sounds like, you start working less hard, and then you exploded because you started to work smarter and really focus on, okay, who can I get at my show that's actually really like, my ideal client. That's great advice, man. I really like that.
I'll even
So,
take that a step further too, because they say work hard. I mean, people always tell you out there you got to get out there and hustle, right? And there's
yeah.
a certain amount of hustle, but hustle is just another word for work hard, not smart, right? That's usually what hustle means.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of that because I really realize that hustling doesn't work. I also realize that working smart doesn't always work because you can hire a coach and then read all the great books and learn strategies and things, but still screw it up. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about working right. If you work right along with working smart, that's when the magic starts happening. That's when you're like, now I feel like I've got traction here, not like what it was before.
Exactly. Exactly. I like that. Almost at the end, Chris, I really quickly want to ask, right? What's because you mentioned when we were talking on Messenger on Facebook that you've written a book together with John Lee Dumas and Tim Ferriss, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So when people hear those names, they're all like, "What? That's insane!" So share a little bit, man. What would be a strategy for somebody? How could somebody get to be connected with people like that and write a book with them, right? Or get them on the podcast, or let's leave it with those two.
Well, first you got to get to the point where you have enough confidence in yourself to even start playing at a bigger level, right? I mean, there's even been bigger players I've talked to and worked with or gotten to know and things like that, and that's fine. Like they're all normal people, just like you and I are, right? They're just normal people. They just figured out a few things and got themselves. It's kind of like you would hear all the time from successful people that it took them 10 years to become an overnight success.
Exactly.
I can attest that that's what it feels like sometimes, and people will see the after effect, but they don't see all the work that led up to it, right?
Sure.
But like in that case, it was all connections. I had a connection with a friend named Woody. Woody sent an email and said, "Hey, I'm looking to do this joint book together with Woody, or not Woody, so with John Lee Dumas and Tim Ferriss." And I was like, "Oh, I met Tim Ferriss a few years back. He's a cool guy. I wouldn't mind doing that." He's like, "All right, well, you got to commit to buy 200 books for $2,000." I was like, "Done." Now you may or may not be ready at that level, or depending on where you're at, right? But for me, I was like, even though I was new in my business and I was just getting it going, I was like, I'll make that work. Like that's worth it to me. And when I got done, doing my own transcribed audio, so that we would turn it into a chapter, we could start editing it and things like that, right? Then Woody asked me, he says, "Hey, anything I could do to help you?" Now, this is a critical, pivotal moment for anybody, because most people are like, "I'm good, thanks, just let me know." It's like, no, I was very clear on my intention. I said, "You know what? I've been trying to get on John's show, Entrepreneur on Fire, for a year." And I've even had him reply back, but he's never got me as a guest. I'm like, "Can you get me on his show?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll send an email right now." And seriously, I'm not kidding. A half hour later, John comes back and says, "Let's get you on the show." And we got me on, and it blew up. I mean, it took 4 months before my show aired, but it was so worth it. And the cool thing is I got back on a second time, promoted my podcast on that show, and then the podcast blew up. And when he and even John says, "Hey, listen, if you want to be a guest on the show, you got to pay $600 of journals to be on my show." I'm like, "Well, the first time I was on your show, made like 30 or 40 grand, so $600 done." Yeah, it's like that's a nothing investment. I like that ROI, right? Well, guess what? That $600 has now turned into, in the last 3 years, over $1 million just from that one show. All the connections I've made and opportunities and doors I've opened has been from that show. That second one I did, which I had more confidence and just greater power, and it attracted more people. And I'm telling you, like it's just little tiny decisions like that build up to that moment. That's all it is.
Exactly. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So thanks, Chris, for being on. Really appreciate it. Chris, for all those people that are either watching live or listening or watching the replay, where can they get in contact with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, follow my show, The Chris Miles Money Show. It's on iTunes and whatever favorite podcast app you have. Follow that show. And then, you can always check out moneyripples.com as well. I've got my shaven face on there and everything, but you definitely check that out. And there's good resources on there as well.
Terrific. Great. Again, Chris, and for the people that are watching, the link, this link is in the comment section. Right before the end.
Speaking of family, this is exactly what we're talking about here.
Yep, there he is. Say hi, Chris.
Hey.
Good. Come on. Thanks, buddy. You want to say it with me? We're going to say goodbye. Okay? So that was it. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
So you can